Hi, today we're going to have a story. I'm going to tell you a story that is an offshoot of the traditional Cinderella fairy tale. In this case, it is called Bubba the Cowboy Prince, A Fractured Texas Tale. It's by Helen Ketteman and illustrated by James Warhola. I hope you enjoy the story. Thank you. Hi there. Let me turn this screen around real quick so I have some kind of clue what's happening while this is going on. Hi, my name is Lambert, and this video is part of a storytelling class that I'm in, that I'm taking it's actually very fun. I already introduced the book. It's an offshoot of the Cinderella classic, and this one is, of course, by an American author and artist in Texas, of course. You can't have a cowboy prince anywhere else but Texas, probably, although Wyoming, I'm sure, would argue that point, in Oklahoma. So I'm going to read you this story, and I love this story. I read it to some of my kids, and they thought the story was pretty funny. So I'm going to begin now. This is the story of Bubba. Bubba lives in Texas. Once a strapping young fella named Bubba lived on a ranch with his wicked stepdaddy and his hateful and lazy stepbrothers, Dwayne and Milton. Bubba's stepdaddy spoiled Dwayne and Milton to no end. But Bubba worked from sun up to sundown. No, never having any fun, just doing chores. And he was only one person doing the work of 3 ranch hands. Bubba never complained, though, because he loved ranching. Dwayne and Milton spent their days sitting on horseback, bossing Bubba around. "Get them doggies along there, Bubba," ordered Dwayne. "Yeah, watch out for them cow patties," added Milton, as both boys sat up on their horses laughing at Bubba. "You know how Daddy hates for you to track up the house." Poor Bubba. He worked his fingers to the bone. Now, Ms. Lurleen is another character in this book. And she is a very wealthy rancher. And she doesn't have a husband, and she's on the lookout for one. Miss Lurleen lived down the road a piece and was the prettiest, richest girl in the county. She owned the biggest spread west of the Brazos, and she loved ranching too. But it was lonesome work, and after a while she decided it was time for some companionship. "I aim to find myself a feller," she said, "one who loves ranching as much as I do. And it wouldn't hurt if he was cute as a cow's ear either." Miss Lurleen decided to throw a ball. She sent invitations to all the ranchers in Texas. Texas is huge, and there's a lot of ranches. That's a lot of cowboys coming to this party. Soon the day of the ball arrived. Milton and Dwayne spent all day gussying up in their finest duds. Bubba about ran himself ragged, running around waiting on them. "Bubba!" shouted Dwayne. "Fetch my bolo tie." "Bubba!" shouted Milton. "Get my boots polished." "Bubba!" shouted his wicked stepdaddy. "Brush them horses and wash that wagon." Whew. And Bubba was always nice about it. He just never complained because, you know, he's just such a nice fella. And he is cute as a cow's ear. By the time Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy were ready to go, Bubba was exhausted. Still, as they climbed into the wagon, Bubba asked, "Can't you wait for me to get ready? I want to dance with Miss Lurleen too." Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy hooted and hollered. "Why, you're sorrier than a steer in a stockyard," said Dwayne. "Can you imagine Miss Lurleen dancing around with the likes of you?" said Milton. "Miss Lurleen wouldn't even wipe the dirt clods off her boots with that raggedy shirt of yours." And and you smell more like the cattle than the cattle do. And off they rode, laughing and hooting and hollering, while Bubba just stood there. Bubba took a look at himself. It was true. He didn't have a decent shirt to wear. His boots were downright disgraceful, but then that stepdaddy never bought him any clothes, and he did smell a bit rough. Milton and Dwayne were right. Miss Lurleen wouldn't dance with the likes of him. Bubba hung his head. He felt lower than a rattlesnake in a gully. That's pretty low. Milton and Dwayne and their wicked daddy went on off to the ball, and Bubba mounted up on his horse and headed for the pasture to check on the herd. The sky was getting darker. Then a black bull at midnight. It looked like a Texas thunderstorm was brewing. Poor Bubba. He's checking out the herd. A storm's brewing. Everybody's off at a party. I'd feel pretty lousy too. Bubba had just arrived at the cow pasture when a bolt of lightning struck, knocking him right off his horse. Bubba was stunned for a moment, but when he picked himself up, he heard a voice. "Go to the ball, Bubba," said the voice. Bubba looked around, scratched his head. No one was there but him and the cows. Now Bubba just figured he'd had the bejeebers knocked out of him when he was hit by that lightning and flew off his horse. Because the voice, it seemed like it was coming from a cow. She chewed her cud for a moment and then said, "I'm your fairy god cow, and I can help you go to the ball." Bubba sat up, rubbing his head. "I'd like to go, Miss God Cow, but shoot, I don't have a thing to wear." Fairy God Cow swished her tail, and Bubba's raggedy clothes changed into the handsomest cowboy duds he'd ever laid eyes on. That's saying something, because living in Texas, there's a lot of fancy cowboy duds. His jeans were crisp, his boots were shiny, his shirt was dazzling, and his Stetson was whiter than a new salt lick. "Why, I look downright purty," said Bubba. And he did. The fairy god cow swished her tail again, and a nearby steer turned into the most beautiful white stallion Bubba had ever seen. "Now you go off to that ball, Bubba, and have a good time dancing with Miss Lurleen. But you best be home by midnight, because that's when the magic runs out." "Yahoo!" shouted Bubba, as he jumped on the white horse and galloped off to the ball. When Bubba arrived, the hoedown was in full swing, but every time Miss Lurleen finished a dance, she yawned. "There goes another $10 Stetson on a 5-cent head," she said, complaining, "Where are all the real cowboys?" By the time it was Bubba's turn to dance with Miss Lurleen, it was almost midnight. As soon as she saw Bubba, Miss Lurleen's eyes lit up. "Why, you're as cute as a cow's ear," she said. Bubba blushed, then took Miss Lurleen in his arms and started dancing. Dwayne and Milton turned purple with jealousy. "Who is that dude?" said Dwayne. "I don't recollect seeing him before, but he looks a mite familiar," said Milton. "Do something," said their wicked daddy. "That cowboy is winning Miss Lurleen's heart." Oh, and he was. As it turned out, Milton and Dwayne didn't have to do a thing, because Bubba and Miss Lurleen were right in the middle of a do-si-doing, and the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, Bubba's fine duds turned into dirty rags that he usually wore around the ranch. He looked sorry, and he smelled worse. "What is that awful smell?" asked Milton. "Why, it's Bubba!" shouted Dwayne. Bubba turned 14 shades of red, apologized to Miss Lurleen, and ran out of the room. "Wait!" she yelled, chasing after him. But Bubba didn't wait. He jumped onto his cow, because it had changed back too, and lumbered off into the night. In the ruckus, he lost one of his dirty cowboy boots. Miss Lurleen clasped it in her arms. "This is the boot of a real cowboy, and the man I want to marry, and I aim to find him." Yeah, Miss Lurleen, she didn't get to be the richest ranch without being pretty stubborn and determined. Miss Lurleen went back inside, and though she asked everybody at the ball, nobody knew who that mysterious cowboy was. Nobody except Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy, but they weren't about to tell. The next day, Miss Lurleen went from ranch to ranch looking for the cowboy who owned the boot. When she came to Dwayne and Milton's ranch, both brothers tried the boot on, but it didn't fit. Miss Lurleen had just climbed up on her horse to leave when Bubba rode up. He was dirty and sweaty and smelly from working with the cows, and he was only wearing one boot. Miss Lurleen jumped off her horse and ran over to Bubba. "Try this on," she cried. Bubba took his old dirty boot and pulled it on. "Much obliged, ma'am," he said, blushing. It fit perfectly. "You're my prince and cowboy boots!" shouted Miss Lurleen. "I'd recognize that smell anywhere. Marry me, cowboy, and help me work my ranch." Dwayne and Milton and their daddy, their wicked daddy, threw chicken fits. Of all that could have happened, that was probably the worst thing in their mind. But Bubba just smiled, and he and Miss Lurleen, they rode off into the sunset. And they lived happily ever after, roping and cow-poking and getting them doggies alone. And that's the end of Bubba the Cowboy Prince. And I hope you enjoyed this story today. I'm going to take a look and review it after I'm done to see if I enjoyed this story today. Anyways, my name is Lambert, and I'm in a class through Western. I think it's Education 309. And my professor is Rosemary Bose. Thank you very much.